Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to show you the next part of the Moana square, which is how to make the flowers which we are going to applique on to our final square. I have done these slightly different to the pattern in the Disney magazines, which means that I can read out the full pattern for you because it won't be against copyright. I've just made the flowers slightly fuller. They're less, I guess, tropical looking, but I do like the fact that they're more identifiable as a flower because they have got a few more petals on them. So I hope you do prefer the look of them as well. So for these flowers, we need to make 3 in white and 3 in the hyacinth colour, which is, I guess, or a lilac almost. It's kind of like a light pinky purple in a way. So we're still using the 4mm hook, and I've gone ahead and added a slip knot. You will just need a short tail on this one. You will end up cutting quite a lot of it off. So I'd say possibly about a 7cm tail. So once we've added our slip knot, we're then going to go ahead and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. From there, we want to do a double crochet stitch into the first chain, and that's a UK double crochet or a US single crochet, which are both the same stitch. So it's going into the loop that is just above my left thumbnail there. So we're going into this one and we're pulling up a loop, and then we're yarning over and pulling that one through. From there, we need to chain 1. There's my 1 chain. And we then need to do another double crochet, but this time into the ring that we've just formed and not into that stitch where we've just been. So if we move these stitches apart so they are a circle, which is really difficult to do, I won't lie. They do go round in a loop, and you want to go into that loop in the centre there. So just pull that one a bit tighter, and then I'm going to go into this gap in the middle, and again pull up a loop, yarn over and pull that one through. So from here we need to start making our petals, and so we need to chain 4 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to double crochet back into that center loop. If you look at that here, you can see the loop, and the right one that we need to go into is right at the base of those 4 chains you've just done. So just above my left thumbnail there, you can see a hole, and we want to go back into that one where we've just came from. So we'll go back in there, same stitch again, the double crochet, and we've got the 1 petal. I understand it does look messy to begin with, but just bear with me and we will get there. So another 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, we're going back into that center at the bottom of the chain. So back in here, yarn over, So there's that double crochet stitch, and then again another 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, back into the center, if I can. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through. So now you can see that we have got those 3 petals at the bottom. It does slightly look that this one here in between my index finger and my left thumbnail, that is also a petal, but that's not. That's the original 4 chains we made, and we do need to cover this up as we go round because it can look a bit bulky. So if we chain another 4 for our 4th petal, 2, 3, 4, and then I can show you how to do this. So we've got our little bit here of non-working yarn, and we've also got this bit here, which is our original 4 chains that made this loop. So if we hold the non-working yarn over there, and then this time we're going to go into that center loop and just pull that one tight over, as tight as you can. And hopefully we can then cover that one up. So now we've got 4 petals, and you can't see that big bulk of what was there before. So we're going to do another 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just as before, we're going to go over and catch the non-working yarn and the center of the loop. So back in, pull up, pull through, and we'll tighten that one. We've now got 5 loops. We're going to do one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This time when we go into the center, we're not going to do a double crochet. We're going to do a slip stitch, which we have done before, but again, try to cover up that non-working yarn in the middle. So we're going to go in and pull up a loop, and this time just pull that loop straight through. And that is the end of your flower. So I've gone ahead off camera and already cut the working yarn tail. It needs to be about 35 centimeters long. So after you have done that, yarn over with that after you've done that, yarn over with the working yarn, and then just pull all of it through that loop. And then we want to tighten that one as much as possible so it doesn't come undone. So here is your flower, and you will be left with these 2 pieces of yarn at the bottom. There can look like there is a slight gap where there is those 2 pieces of yarn there. But one thing that's good about this, because we have gone through and done all those stitches in the center of the loop, you can actually move them round. So feel free to have a play round once it's finished and try and move them around so it looks all equal if you so wish. One thing I am going to do from here is turn the flower over. I am then going to knot these 2 pieces of yarn together just so they stay and don't come undone. And I'll just do that off of camera now. So I have tried to tie that knot at the back, so it is on top of the center circle there and not within the gap, otherwise it will keep those petals further apart. So if you can, try and just move it and slightly adjust it so it's at the back and not between the 2 petals, that will give you a more even flower. I've got my non-working yarn on the right there. What I'm going to do from here is just cut it so it's about 1 centimetre long. That way I have a little bit of leeway to thread that one round the back when I'm appliquing it onto the blue square, because if it was too short, 1, it might come unravelled, and 2, it can also work its way so that it will poke its way through to the front of the flower, which we don't want because it will make it look messy. So the aim is, when we're appliquing it, to pin it so it lies almost like this. And then when we're sewing it on to the blue square, hopefully it should lie like that with the way we sew it, and then that end won't stick out and become messy when the square is finished. Just a final note to add to the blue square that we've made. Mine is 2 rows longer, or 2 more rows than the pattern called for to make it square. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many rows you do, as long as your pattern is square and your squares are pretty much all the same size, otherwise your blanket at the end is going to be unequal. So the best thing to do is to try to stick to the size quoted in the magazines that we need, rather than listening to exactly how many rows we need, and that way everything should end up equal. So I have gone ahead and I have just attached all of those flowers onto my square. I know I should be using pins, I don't have any, so I guess I have needled them on for now rather than pinned them on, but it will do anything on there just to hold them on for now. When you're putting them on, you want them to be completely equal with where they are sitting in the centre of that square. The best thing to do with this is to start at the top with your white flower, and I have just made sure that it's just slightly under 1 row down. If we count this line here just above my left thumbnail as a row, it's just hitting under there. And if we go down the bottom, we've done the same with the pink one. That was my next one that I attached. I then used the guides of how many stitches there are on the side, on this side and on this side, and I think it works out about 3 stitches putting it either side, and then I added the white ones below that. So I've attached my darning needle to the tail of the first flower, the top middle white one. You can pretty much do your own thing here for how you want to attach it, just as long as you are pretty happy that they're secured on. One thing that I will say is, where I was talking about the fact that you can move the petals around to make sure it's equal, this is your opportunity to fix them in place. So before you start sewing them down, move them to where you want them and then sew over the top of them. So my yarn ends here, it's coming from this side of the petal, so I am going to go up into here first. If I stretch that petal out, I'm just going to go into this side through one of the chains and pull through, and then I'll hold it in place while I go through the next chain, pull that one through, and then I'm going to go through the next chain, pull that one through, and then what I'll do is I'll do that going all the way around the flower to make sure that one is pretty secure. I'll meet you back here when I've done it. So I just finished sewing in or appliquing on all of the flowers onto the square, and this is the final square. It does look a bit messy at the moment because of the extra strands on the back, and you'll see what I mean when I turn it over. So I've tried to thread through the extra length on the back as much as I can, and then I've just left them on the edge, because if you look at the main pictures of the blanket when it's put together, you will see that every square has a border, which means that when I put the border on, hopefully I can disguise these threads in that border. So what I've done when I've finished appliquing on the flowers, you can see just here, there is a knot. So I will have gone back in through the centre of one of the stitches, just around here, and pulled it through here. Then I've actually knotted it to the back just to make sure it's secure before then threading through the yarn to one of the sides. Just make sure when you're threading them through that you're not zigzagging here, there and everywhere, because remember, when you turn your blanket over, you are going to be able to see this. And it's just for people that prefer things not to be messy, I guess. I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself, so I just wanted to make it as tidy as possible. But also remember, when you're threading through, I don't know if you can see there, I've only picked up the top stitches here for this pink yarn or lilac yarn to go through. Just as an example, the next row down, it would be this stitch just here that I'd be picking up. I'll see if I can just grab that with my fingers. Bear with me. Be this one just on top. Can you see that one? And by doing so and going through those ones, you're not going through to the other side, because otherwise we'd have lines going across this side as well. And obviously we don't want that. So well done again if you've got this far, because we're now 2 squares down. Yay!